You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
All right, and welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and joined as always by your co-hosts, Kevin and Alex. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Doing good here on a Tuesday evening, coming off another solid win in the home league. Thank you, Derek. And I'm getting ready to get after it, right? More bye weeks, more injuries. Good night, man. Holy smokes. It is tough sailing out there. But Avs are playing hockey, so I'm excited about that. The Broncos still suck. I'm okay with that. And most importantly, I get to hang out with you guys, so it's all good.
The Broncos suck. The Avs are playing. The sky is blue. Death in Texas.
And we hate the Kraken.
We hate the Kraken. If you're a Kraken fan, I'll reserve my comments. Just know that I'm reserving my comments.
We can like you, but your team,
right,
we have disdain for.
Yeah.
It's quickly becoming like the Raiders to us.
It's like, I'm not going to go there, but it could be on a Red Wings trajectory. There's a little bit of bad blood there. There's some playoff history finally, we'll see. I think it's going to be a tough matchup. We don't have the Red Wings anymore because they switched conferences. So we've been in search of somebody to show our disdain for. So maybe the Kraken will fill that void. But this is a fantasy football podcast, and I had a rough week. 3 leagues that I really care about: a work league, a league with my high school boys, and then a league with you guys, aka the home league. And 2 losses. I did not do very well. 2 losses, 1 win. The work league I came through, but it's a tough week. Injuries didn't really hurt me. Poor performances hurt me. And bye weeks, I can't really say it. I'm slowly realizing I don't have the depth that I thought I had when we finished the draft.
I'm going to brag on myself here for a quick second because this was the best week of my season so far. I went 37-7.
Nice.
This week. And I mean, walking around like this, it's like, oh my gosh, finally these guys are showing up. So I feel your pain because I've been there here in a couple of weeks, but week 6 was not one of them. I was very happy with how my week 6 turned out.
I guess I will add, and Derek, I'll let you get your thoughts in here, but I will add, I didn't perform, I guess, poorly. When I'm looking at the scores of other teams around the league, I'm right there around the median score, maybe a little bit above. I ran into tough matchups in the 2 leagues that I lost. I just ran in. Look, you can't play defense in fantasy football, which is unfortunate. I was talking with Keith, who's also in our league, and we played in a fantasy basketball league that does you get a win if you're above the league median. Mm-hmm. Which is kind of nice. I'm sure you guys have played in leagues that are like that.
Where several fantasy leagues like that.
Yeah, you get the win above the league if you're above the league median. Because you can't play defense, so you should get some reward if you are scoring points. I don't mind that system. Obviously, that's not the system that we play in, but
if you
I don't mind
it. We can look into it. I like the idea of it.
I do too.
I think it helps. I think A, it can bring some mediocrity in places, but B, it does not completely cripple you for having a good team just going up against great weeks, right?
And going up against a team, the one team better than you that week, right?
Yeah, you. So we have a 12-team league. Alex, you were the fifth. I mean, you were fifth. You would have beaten 7. Yeah, you would have defeated 7 other teams that week.
Yeah, it was pretty rough.
So it's it's unfortunate. So I like the league median scoring. I think it helps kind of keep things. I think it helps keep people invested if they have a couple tough losses and they don't get down in the dumps about it too bad. I thought I tried to do that a year or 2 ago, and everyone's like, "No, this is stupid. We're not doing this." But I think that league member is no longer with us.
It may need to be revisited because it does provide a sense of, I got hosed because I went up against somebody. And again, like, you can't play defense in fantasy football. There's no way to have any impact on the opposing team other than trying to snipe the free agents that they hope to get the week before. Like, that's the only way you can play defense, is by trying to take those players that they want from the free agency, which isn't all that effective, as it turns out. It can be, but not consistently.
I would vote for it. I would be in agreement of the rule change.
I think I am for it too. The more I think about it,
I'd be for it. Fourth highest scoring team in the league and sitting 7th in the standings.
Yeah, it's rough, isn't it?
Yeah. And so it was funny, right? Like, Kevin and I were talking a little bit about the waiver wire last night to get all the clips out and all of that. By the way, everybody out there listening and watching, the clips for waiver wire, you can find those little short minute-long videos with quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight ends. You can find those on YouTube, on Facebook, on, I guess it's called Meta now, on Instagram and TikTok. You can find those there. All the good places there, right? And on Twitter, now X, you can find the tweets and the links to it, all of that on our profile page. Anyway, when Kevin and I were talking last night, going through the waiver wire, trying to get that kind of finalized and set so we could get those released for you. I told him last night that we could do a case study on my roster about poor management of it. And it would be a very interesting case study. And to further that point, I actually, I kind of said that off the cuff and in jest, and then I got looking into it. So the roster in the home league, I have 6 wide receivers through week 6 that are in the top 24. So I have 6 wide receiver 2s or better on the roster. I have 3 top 12 running backs, so 3 RB1s on there, a quarterback in the top 5, and still am just managing to struggle bust that one. So I've got it. I also came up with an idea. Maybe maybe what we do is we start putting it out there and people can just bid on which wide receiver I'm going to play, because inevitably, if I play that wide receiver, they will have a dud. They will not do anything. But if they put them on the bench, they are going to explode for a top 10 performance. So there's that. There's that idea. Let's float that out there.
I got to tell you though, Derek, you're sitting there. You're 2-4. I'm 2-4 in the home league here. You are the ultimate bad luck, because you're scoring really, really well. You just have run into the most points against. I mean, it's ridiculous. I'm third highest points against, and I'm still 160 points shy of what you've given up, or I shouldn't say given up, but gone up against.
Yep.
And I mean, for reference, for people who don't know, 400 points in this league it's an average week. Anything above 400, because we like to score points. Anything above 400 is usually a good week. And Derek he's just been going through it. I had a year like this not that long ago where I think I went up against the high score every week. I was the oh shoot, I'm just starting to rewatch it. The Blitz, from How I Met Your Mother, where the Blitz misses everything cool. I was the Blitz one year. So that was just rough. And Derek, I think you're going through it this year in the home league, because my goodness, you've had so many points against, and you're scoring at an incredible rate. But to be 2-4, that's really disappointing.
To go back to the poor roster management, now look at max points for and my points against.
I can't bring myself to do
it. Second overall to max points for. I'm 4th in total scoring on that one. So one, I've been getting everybody's best shot every week, it seems like, and then 2, I get the I inevitably have somebody go off on my bench for 70 points in that one, which in other leagues that would be like a 30 or 40 point performance from a from a guy there. So, and Kevin hit it off the head earlier when he said that he had his best week ever from that home league, and it was starting to. I got his best shot too.
You did. But
was that my high scoring week?
But you did not go up against the highest score in the league, because I had that distinction where I went up against the highest score this week in the league.
That's fair.
So Kevin had a great week. Yeah, I think he was second highest score. I went up against the highest score in the league this week.
It was my second highest week this season.
Second highest?
Yeah, my highest week was 543 in week 2.
And who did you play that week?
David. He had 491.
That's right. That was a shootout.
David had a massive week. Like, that week wins 90% of the time.
It wins literally the only time it doesn't go up against a 501 or 5 whatever you had, 514 performance.
He was 4th in scoring that week. Like, that's how big that week was for everybody.
That week was huge.
Like, that week was big for everybody. So it was just
week two.
It was just one of those things. So, but we got a little grudge match between the two of you coming up here in week 7. I don't know if either one of you have looked ahead to this weekend yet.
Thank goodness Alex is decimated by buys. I might actually win this one.
I
am I've got Herbert back, so that helps. But yeah, I didn't want to look ahead because I knew that week 7 was going to be a rough one for me. So
you know what? The beautiful thing about week 7, because I also have a ton of players on bye. All right, week 7, just that matchup there. I don't have to worry much about did I start the right wide receiver or not, because I only have so many options that they're basically playing. So that's good. I say that, and then I look.
You can still find a way to screw this up.
Yeah, I sure can, and I'm sure that I will do it. I'm sure that will happen. And Desmond Ridder, we trust. Here we go.
Time to hit that trade button, Alex.
It looks like I am. I'm okay, provided that Justice Hill goes bananas. Antonio Gibson remembers that he plays football. I'm okay, aside from the fact that I don't have a second quarterback because Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt and CJ Stroud's on bye.
I have another league that's just like that.
That's where I'm at. So there might be
you're gonna put AOC on your roster.
There might be a waiver claim that happens here. The Bears' backup quarterback, right? Because Justin Fields got hurt. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen here? So
right.
That Fields injury about killed me.
That Fields injury was tough for a lot of people, I think. A lot of people that were believing after last week too. They were the week before, right? Like a lot of people that were like, "Hey, finally we saw some life out of Justin Fields." And then, I mean, injury aside, he still did not play very well. He didn't play very well before he got hurt, and then he got hurt, right?
No, I mean, he was on track to set a new record for sacks against for the season. I mean, he's just getting blitzed. So bad offensive line. We'll see what the Bears do with right now, what would be, the top 2 picks in the NFL draft. But would it surprise anyone if they almost took 2 offensive linemen if they think Fields is the answer? Like, if they're not ready to give up on him and it's not quarterback, do you take 2 offensive linemen? Do you take one and try and trade the other pick, and so that way they can grab a quarterback? Like, you can get some capital.
Harrison Jr. and an offensive lineman.
I mean, you're going to get Harrison though. Like, you're not good enough to need you're not a wide receiver away. I guess if you're Chicago, right? Like, I'd say top pass rusher, maybe, right? Like,
hey, but
do
based
what
on
Houston did,
based on all those NFL scout leaks that just came out about Caleb Williams, right? Did you guys see all that? Where this NFL scouts are like, it's the best talent we've seen in a long time, blah blah blah. There's all this ranting and raving about Caleb Williams. I don't know where that came from. Right? Was Chicago trying to up the price of picks 1 and or 2? What game is being played here? Go ahead, Derek.
There is a problem though with that, and some of the comments that both Caleb Williams and his father have already said coming out there, that they could very easily opt out of the draft this year, come back for his senior year.
Certainly
Making a couple million on an NIL deal.
Yep.
So there is that possibility and that option there that if that team's sitting there at number 1 that they don't want to go to, they could just hop back in there. And I actually saw something that that it was released as to what teams he would prefer. I don't know if there's any validity to that report or not, but that was something that I did see circulated out there. Surprised Chicago was not on that list.
No, it was the Raiders, the Cowboys, the Niners,
the Vikings were in there
Vikings,
as well.
And I felt like there's another AFC team on there, but I couldn't remember. I can't remember who it is. Anyway, yeah, I have so many harsh things to say about this. Like, I cannot stand the fact that this is where we're at, right? Like, I don't know. Like, this is why college players probably don't need to be making $2 million a season. They need to be making like $200,000. Right?
But this isn't new, though. This isn't new. This isn't new where a high-profile quarterback.
Who's the last one who did it, Alex?
Eli Manning did it
23 years ago.
Yeah, but it's not new. John Elway did it before that. John Elway
40 years ago. I'm just saying, like, this is not
happens.
an annual. And you know what? I thought they were both douchebags coming out.
Sure, but they still ended up having basically Hall of Fame, Super Bowl winning careers. So, like, it worked out for them.
I don't know.
Look, it's not new. Yeah, it doesn't happen every year, but it's not new.
It's classless. Have a little humility.
Yeah,
you get to play a game for a living, and you have God-given talent.
Look at what happens when you're good and you go to a crap situation. You have a crap career.
Show how good you are.
If you've got the ball in your court.
Okay, let's talk about Peyton Manning went to a crap situation.
He did.
Troy Aikman went to a crap situation. Terry Bradshaw went to a crap situation. Like, Joe Montana went to a crap situation. Like, these are some of the best quarterbacks who've ever come. Dan Marino. Like, there's just as many success stories about gritting it out and showing how good you are than throwing your sucker in the dirt and saying, I don't want to play for you.
I'm on point with you for the most part. The Dan Marino one, I don't know that I agree with that one, just from the standpoint the Dolphins were one of the last picks in the draft. They weren't that far removed from some of those very dominant Super Bowl performances. Mike Shula, the head coach, they were old. They were old.
That he got to a Super Bowl right away and then never even sniffed it. Like, right. I mean, not only didn't get back, didn't even sniff it, really. Like, they'd never built around him. It was a crap situation. That team was good for the first 3 years. That was it.
And he didn't win a Super Bowl. Maybe he should have said, I'm not going there. Although that 83 draft class was stupid.
All right. Moving on.
All right, let's move on. Let's
real quick. Hold on before we get started into the show. A big congratulations. I'm gonna self promote us here because I'm gonna give a big round of applause to Derek and Kevin because 4 years ago last week these two knuckleheads had the idea of talking to each other on a podcast and 4 years later I was supposed to be the first guest. And 4 years later, I'm still here. Worst guest in history because it's
never left.
As the host, yeah, never left. The worst house guest ever. Just like moved in. But 4 years later, we have this Good Old Boys Fantasy Football podcast, and I know there's a few of you watching out now, and I know there's going to be more people that listen. When we put it out on the podcast form to see what it has grown into. All credit goes to Kevin and Derek for keeping this bad boy alive. And providing you guys with fantastic insight into what you should do. So I'm going to give a round of applause. I don't know if there's anybody in the comments that'll throw the clapping hands emoji. We appreciate you for
this one was left in the comments several hours ago, but we'll still take it right there.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Thank you above
but yeah, 4 years going strong. We appreciate each and every one of you who have interacted with us. Asked us questions, joined us for the expanded Friday show, which started a couple seasons ago. At one point, there was like a Sunday morning show. Derek got a little crazy there for a little bit. He's since toned it back down just
that Friday night show is fun.
Yeah,
Yes.
and
Like I like our Tuesday shows, but that Friday night show.
So if you haven't
fun.
joined in on the Friday night show, unfortunately, my real life job gets in the way on Friday night, so I can't join you guys on that. But
A JLB.
So
it's silly job. But for you, good job.
It's been fun. So
It has.
if you haven't seen the Friday night show, right? I know the first 20 minutes of this we've been kind of off the rails a little bit, but we do try and
That's what we do.
We generally try and keep this show a little bit more structured, right? Like we have a firm show doc that we go through and we try and get all these points and we answer questions that we get along the way. But because it's a school night and we all got to get up and go to work the next morning, we do try and have a harder stop. The last 2 Friday nights, Derek and I have wrapped up game lines, props, talking about intermittent questions throughout, and we get wrapped up about an hour and 15 minutes in. The last 2 weeks, we've been on for another hour to an hour and a half after that, just answering questions.
That's fun.
Free agency, waiver wires, trades, roster construction, you name it, and it is so fun. Like I like it because it's free flowing. And it's a little bit more of this, right? Like we're able to just sit back like we're on the couch, much how we envision this, right? When we first got started is like we're sitting in our fraternity house back in college and just the banter back and forth. And, oh, well, this is why I like this guy and this, I do this over this and this. And so much fun because at its roots, while we enjoy these Tuesday night shows and the content that it creates and helping people out, those Friday night shows they are the inspiration behind what this has turned into in a large sense, because we get to spend an hour nonstop just hanging out with everybody and answering whatever questions they have. So cool.
Absolutely. That being said, if you have questions, you have comments, throw them in there. We will rock and roll. And we make sure that we get through everybody's comments and questions when we get through it too. So if you have questions, you have comments, we're going to start rocking and rolling through some of those now and get those cooking here. But, Kevin just kind of add on another little point there, right? Like when I was cutting up one of the videos and going through some of those things from the Friday show, I think that was one of the nights we were on for like 2.5 hours on a live stream. And Kevin and I really, when we did it, we had all of like 35 minutes of actual content that we had prepared and we were ready to go with. And like, that was the talking points. And the other, basically 2 hours was just spent talking to folks about the roster constructs and their trade questions. And, how do they try and win their matchup that week? So thank you to everybody out there as well. Just tuning in and listening to us and having fun with us along the way. Let's go ahead and start doing what many of you came here to do tonight, and that is to get your questions answered. So let's start rocking and rolling. We will then be also, rolling through our Pine and Shine recaps, working through the Thursday night game here, as well as our Pine and Shines for next week. And we're going to hit up the, if we were to redraft the first 2 rounds through 6 weeks here, rest of the season type of deal. All right. First up, we've got Mr. COD Reaper. Welcome back into the chat here. Hey, y'all, been away for a bit, but I'm back on a 3-game losing streak. Ranked 7th in the league. Week 6 was a nail biter and came up just short. He's starting Jordan Love, Mostert, Brian Robinson, Jacoby Myers, Metcalf, Everett, James Cook. The bench is Lawrence, Algier, Higgins, Judy, Thielen, Musgrave. Thoughts? I'm starting Musgrave over Everett, and I'm starting Thielen over Metcalf.
I agree with both of those. Like, I know it seems weird, but we've had a large enough sample size, and Thielen is the hot hand you have to play right now. And Musgrave, it's the matchup, right? Like Everett should play well against Kansas City, but Denver is atrocious against tight ends. So you go for that upside, and maybe they both have 5 or 6 targets. You feel like Musgrave's going to, I think is able to do a little more with them than Everett is against Kansas City. So I completely agree with that.
I think you have
James
to.
Cook is playing. Like I almost play, and Higgins is on the bye, so you can't do anything with that. So maybe if you like Metcalf a bunch, you play Thielen over James Cook.
Yeah.
If you want a piece of Metcalf and what can be a higher ceiling, you bench Cook against the Pats. They haven't been very good against the run, but it is a divisional matchup, so there's a little bit more to that. You plug Thielen in, who's been just on a tear. You got to capitalize on that.
Any additional thoughts, Alex?
Well, I think you got to be careful with Lawrence, and I think you leave him on the bench. Look, Love is going up against a plus matchup, right, against the Denver defense. Lawrence has that injury. It's a Thursday game. You're not sure what you're going to do, so I think you're okay leaving Jordan Love in.
And actually, I just saw
think
COD's deal is that Thielen's on a bye. You're right. The Panthers are on bye this week.
Shoot. That's right. I apologize.
I would just switch out Musgrave and Everett and play the matchup there. Musgrave, it gets Denver. They give the most points to opposing tight ends. Everett's up against Kansas City, and Kansas City is a top 5 defense against tight ends. They don't really give up points to opposing tight ends. So I'd play the matchup there. And then looking at it as well, he also put his opponent's matchup here with Cousins, Mixon, McCaffrey, Keenan Allen, Garrett Wilson, Hawkinson, Josh Jacobs. The bench has Khalil Herbert, Miller, Evans, Michael Thomas, Goddard, Kincaid. You need ceiling check. That very well could be Justin
Herbert.
Wilson's on a bye. No, it's Khalil Herbert. We've gone through this.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
That's
Khalil Herbert's on IR, so that guy's not playing.
So you're playing, yeah. Garrett Wilson's on a bye, so for your sake, hopefully that plays out. Cousins is going up against San Francisco without Justin Jefferson, so that should be good.
Saw how bad that offense looked without Justin Jefferson last week.
And McCaffrey dinged up, even if he does suit up to play, right? They're talking about it. That doesn't mean that he's going to see his full snap share, right?
Yeah.
He could easily re-injure this. They could bring him along. He maybe only sees, 10 touches just to kind of keep defenses honest, or specialty plays that they want McCaffrey in for.
It is Justin Herbert.
No. My guess is
it's his matchup. So he probably plays Justin Herbert, but
so he plays Herbert and throws Mike Evans in over Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, I think you got your hands full, COD Reaper.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough matchup there, but you're going to need to go for upside shots on this one, and I think the lineup that you've got, and I think Musgrave gives you a better upside than whatever it does. But it's going to be a tough matchup there. Any other thoughts on this one?
Negative.
I mean, if he plugs in Herbert, you may want to consider Everett just so you can try and get something, but it's not. I don't know that that's worth it.
Yeah, I'd still play Musgrave matchup and not worry about the potentially 4 or 5 targets that Everett's going to get from Herbert. So
that's very fair.
All right, all my guys are on bye. Currently have T. Law, Najee Harris, Jerome Ford, Kupp, Amari Cooper, Ian Thomas.
Wow. You got to find a better tight end than Ian Thomas, Terrence, right?
That's his question. Should I go after Thomas or Freiermuth? And that's Logan Thomas would be my guess, or Pat Freiermuth. Pat Freiermuth coming off that hamstring does worry me a little bit. Like, he says he's good to go. It's a plus matchup for the tight end for him. Like, the matchup looks really good, but soft tissues injuries, man. I want to see a guy come out there and show it on the field before I'm going to give that a start on that one. So
if it is Logan, I'm playing Logan against the Giants. The Giants have just not been good. They had a heartbreaker. Very could easily, that was kind of their Super Bowl shot, right? Like, okay, here we go. We're going to give it one last run. And they gave the Bills everything they could handle, and it just didn't work out. So if it is Logan Thomas, I think I play him against the Giants.
He added a wrinkle. Logan Thomas or Luke Musgrave?
Musgrave. I go Musgrave.
I'm going Thomas because of the way that Sam Howell is targeting the middle of the field. He is just not pushing the ball outside the numbers. Everything is in the middle. Jordan Love, we've seen him be able to get it outside to Romeo Dobbs. Christian Watson has yet to do anything of substance this season. You got to figure he's due for at least one breakout game here coming up, and Denver's a really juicy matchup to get that. So I think I would go Thomas by a hair, but I'm not going to fight anyone who says they want it to be Musgrave.
Yeah, I mean, this one for me is a coin flip between Logan Thomas, Luke Musgrave. These guys they both have plus matchups here. They both do well. Thomas coming off a very poor performance, Musgrave coming off of the bye. But Logan Thomas, we've seen him get 20% target share, and have been heavily involved with what Sam Howell's doing. Luke Musgrave on a per route metric is looking really good and actually doing really well on that. He's up there around close to about an 18% target share. He's participating in about 70% of routes run combinations there. He's pointing well on a per route basis, but the matchup's good. Man, I think I'm gonna Thomas. Or Terrence. It kind of depends. I'm gonna see Logan Thomas a little bit more of a floor play. I think that you're probably going to get better production out of him, but I think Luke Musgrave probably gives you a better chance to get into the end zone on that one, just from that matchup perspective. So kind of depends if you need floor play, ceiling play. I'd go floor play of Thomas, ceiling play of Musgrave. Any other thoughts on this one?
No, I'm good with that.
Okay. Ajiji, sup, fellas? So sitting number 1 on the waiver wire still. Did not go with the DeMarcado noise last week. So Mason, Mitchell, Hunt, or Evans, are any of those worth his waiver priority? He doesn't have CMC, and they are 5-1 for context.
I don't think any of these guys are. I think Mason and Mitchell. I think all these guys are one
stash.
You can, but all these guys are 1 week rentals.
Right.
If CMC was down for the year, then that's where Mason or Mitchell, right? Then we're trying to debate between those two. But we're talking, he's dinged up. If they're already saying that there's a chance he could go, then they clearly don't think it's that bad. It's going to be any long-standing injury. Same thing with Evans, right? If he goes, it's for 1 week. But the Rams activated. They brought Royce Freeman in. They brought Henderson back onto their practice squad.
Gaskin, they signed Gaskin off of the Vikes practice squad.
Yeah. So I don't think any of these guys are. You want them to do something, but for 1 week, I think you're fine unless you're absolutely hammered on bye weeks.
I should clarify. When I said you can stash, I meant you can stash your number 1 waiver position for another week. Wait, you're 5-1, you can afford to not spend that money when you don't need to, right? So it should be a break glass in case of emergency situation, and you're not in an emergency right now.
All right, I like it. I concur as well. I wouldn't spend it. Bronson, trade Stafford with either T-Law, Purdy, or Geno for Burrow. A 2 QB league? Yeah, I would do this. I would keep Purdy. I'd keep T-Law. See if you could trade away Stafford and Geno for Burrow and see if you can't catch the upside swing.
I would completely agree with that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Terrence, should I pick up Sam Howell even if Trevor Lawrence plays? I think it's worth a shot.
I think this week I like that play, right? As long as you're not having to drop Lawrence, right? If you have the roster spot, I don't know that I hate that. Short week, he's probably going to be in a knee brace, so he's going to be extremely still, I guess. I'm trying to think of the right word. He's going to be kind of a statue back there this week. Lawrence will be, and the Saints' pass defense is going to be tough, right? Marcus Lattimore's playing, so he's going to be shutting down Calvin Ridley. Maybe Christian Kirk kind of is able to go off in the slot a little bit. But it's going to be a tough week for the Jags here as the Saints' defense is really starting to kind of ratchet it up here as they get into midseason form. So I don't hate the play, especially with Howell going up against the Giants, right? You get a plus matchup. even when playing from behind, we've seen Hal just grip it and rip it. They're not afraid to just let him toss the ball all over the yard when they need to. So I think there's a higher upside for Hal this week, and quite possibly an equal floor for both of them.
Yeah. Alex, any other thoughts on that one?
No.
Alrighty. There we go. So I know Dylan's been bad. This is from Ajiji. But would you play him even if Jones plays over Rachaad White, who's been terrible in bad matchups?
Hold on. Before we answer this, I will have an answer later in the show. So stick around.
All right. Ajiji, we'll get to this one and bring it back up because I guarantee Alex is talking about the pine and shine on that one. So
I have an answer for him later in the show.
We'll tease that one ahead there. Okay. Mr. COD Reaper giving the congratulations emojis. So I think that was for the
4 years. Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
All righty. And Ajiji saying cool. Thanks for all your help, guys. All righty. Julio. So, guys, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, all of that good stuff, throw them in the chat here. We'll make sure we hit those up and get those going. Are we ready to hit a little pine and shine recap?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. We got the pine, we got the shine, we got the recap of it. And so we're pining and shining the recaps here for week 6. Alex, go ahead and lead the way here.
I kind of had a ho-hum week here, I guess. Not terrible, but not bad. For my pine, I selected Jerome Ford, who actually finished above what he was projected. But below rank or below points, but above in rank. Down week for running backs this week. Chris Olave kind of hit. He was projected to be a wide receiver, high-end wide receiver 2, finished middle of the pack wide receiver 2. And Darren Waller was the one, I guess, like hit that I had projected to finish tight end 7. He finished tight end 15.
I like it. Hey, it was a plus week for you in the Pines.
It was.
It's a good thing. So, my Pines, I had pre-solved. That one obviously didn't work, where he outperformed his projections in a big way as a top 5 running back.
You were good until the touchdown.
That's very true. We were right on track there, and then the touchdown happened, and then forget about it. Deebo Samuel, though, definitely nailed this one. Called for him to be a Pine. Granted, I was calling for him a Pine. The injury happened. That was kind of a messy, sloppy type of game there, but huge hit there on that one. And then Evan Ingram also hit on that one, where called for that one, was projected to be a top 5, finished as a top 15 guy, just barely in there. So looking pretty solid on the Pines here for my week 6.
I didn't have the big one that you had with Deebo, but I felt pretty good going in, right? So McCaffrey was kind of the highlight play. Now, the first drive would have told you that I was big time screwed, and then the usage started slowing down. Then he got hurt, came out, came back in, went back out, and they just said no. And Ayuk both, right? Just a really tough matchup for San Francisco against Cleveland. So both of those ended up in the positive. Great. Kyle Pitts found the end zone, and that's kind of all she wrote, right? If he doesn't fall in the end zone, we're looking at 6.3 points, which is below projection, and that one would have hit as well. So just wasn't my week for missing the end zone play. But overall, it's not the great week that Derek had, but I'm pretty happy with it. Plus 30.
Yeah, and really, it was one guy that kind of saved my whole week there. So, all right, let's go ahead and get into the Shine recaps here. So week 6 Shine recaps. Kick us off, Alex.
So this, he overperformed, but it wasn't that much of a hero call with Kenneth Walker, who was projected to finish 7th, running back 7 on the week. He finished above that, running back 6. Scored a few more points than he was projected. Thielen, man, has he been hot the last couple of weeks. He was projected wide receiver 20, which honestly felt low. And so this felt like it was a steal and easy, just cash right here, just straight points. And he finished wide receiver 4, finished with 23 points. Kate Otten did not find the end zone and therefore screwed me big time.
Gotcha. Yeah, my shines. I had Jerick McKinnon, who ended up outperforming where he was. You had that big play called back that we could have seen an even better one here, but was not to be. Josh Downs, if he ended up falling into the end zone, and that one kind of saved the bacon on this one here. Tyler Conklin, that's pretty much a wash on that one. Kind of finished right where he was projected on that one. Lost a 0.8 points on that one.
Yeah, I had a down week on the shine, so I went for some hero calls. I really thought that I was onto something with this Higgins deal, getting him with where the rankings were, and he's a non-factor, really. So that Seattle Cincinnati game did not live up to the hype. I was hoping for many, many, many more points than what came out of that game, and that's why I played that game with all Seattle and Cincinnati players, and the game script went to poo, and so did my shines.
Fair enough. So we had overall decent weeks, kind of across the board there, and we'll get into our week 7 calls here for the Pine and Shine here very shortly. Again, folks out there, listen, if you have any questions, comments, make sure you throw those in the chat and let's get those things answered for you. Any thoughts, any news, notes, anything like that we want to hit up before we get into the week 7 Thursday night game?
Julio.
That was a big one.
That one was fun. Out of nowhere.
Right.
So the Eagles in need of wide receiver help. Aside from just it was a weird week last week, right? Teams that we thought, look, I don't think anybody thought that anybody was going to go undefeated. But certainly the teams that we thought would have plus matchups with San Francisco and with Philadelphia, with both of those teams losing, that it just kind of lets the whole league know, like, okay, the team on the other side is getting paid to do this too, right? Like, so that was it. That was just some interesting results. San Francisco, for all intents and purposes, should have won. Brock Purdy played terribly. CMC got hurt, and Debo got hurt, and they still had a chance to win it at the end. So, like, if I'm a Niners fan, I feel okay, because even on your worst day against the league's best defense, which Cleveland is, you still had yourself a shot at a win. But the Julio signing caught me well off guard today when I saw that come down. I actually saw like Jones signs with Eagles, and I was like, which Jones? And Julio was not the first one that popped into my head.
Fair enough. Any other news notes that we want to hit up here?
No, I'm good.
Okay. And Alex, just for everybody out there that tuned into the Friday show, there was a call made on the Friday show that Cleveland was going to cover. So that
cover they did.
So
that was a big number. That was a lot larger than it should have been. So yeah, I like that. I like that call to cover.
Yeah. All righty. We got Bengen 02.
It's probably like Penguin, right?
That's kind of what I'm thinking, but with a B instead of a P. So
yeah.
Benguin over on YouTube asking to start sit 2 RBs, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex. They've got Chase, T, Hall, Garrett Wilson, all on bye. Running backs are Josh Jacobs, Rashad White, Jerome Ford, Roshan Johnson, JT. The wide receivers are Chris Olave, Christian Watson, Godwin. Olave is a must start. Josh Jacobs is a must start.
I like Watson against Denver's terrible defense.
I could see that. Tampa Bay has a tough matchup this week. Kevin, who are you thinking for the second RB here?
So I'm going through here right now. Yeah, I love the Jacobs matchup. It wouldn't surprise me if he was flirting with RB1 here at the end of the week. Rashad White's going up against the Falcons, and they just have not been giving it up, right? They've been much stingier than I think, what we believed that they would be. And then with Ford, sorry, pulling up my notes.
Ford going up against Indianapolis.
I don't hate that. Jacobs and Ford. Ford gives you a good floor because Cleveland's just going to run the ball. Even whether it's Deshaun, P.J. Walker, Joe Blow off the street, like, it doesn't change the style of that offense. And if the Browns are able to run the ball against San Francisco, they can run the ball against anybody. So I think you can start Jerome Ford here with confidence. So Jacobs and Ford are your two RBs. Not JT going up against the Browns.
No.
So I think you have to, and I don't like White. So I think you have to. I think you're going to Olave, Watson, Godwin, and Jacobs and Ford.
Cosign.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, would you play Love, Watson, or Purdy this week?
Purdy.
Yeah, I'd go Purdy as well. Love has an intriguing matchup and a plus matchup there, but yeah, there's a good chance that Green Bay just runs the ball. Denver gives it up on the ground very easily. So
yeah, Love would be number 2 on my list, right?
Yeah.
Like, I would go Purdy, then Love, then Watson in that order. But I like guys in primetime matchups. Like, everybody gets ratcheted up a little bit more. The Vikings have been terrible against the pass. Yes, they stymied Chicago after Fields went out. I don't think
Chicago stymied Chicago.
Yeah, like, I don't think Minnesota's defensive woes are cured just because they had a good game against Chicago. I think the Niners kind of put them back down into earth, especially if McCaffrey's dinged up a little bit. They're going to ask Purdy to do a little bit more.
Fair enough. Alrighty, Ajiji asking the question. Dropped Hunter Henry, picked up Kmet last week. He stunk it up so bad. Do you like Jonnu or Mayer over Kmet, or stay with Kmet this week? I'm probably gonna. My answer is gonna be to roll with Kmet.
Yeah, I don't hate staying with Kmet. Like, Jonnu's still getting a decent amount of run, right? Like, he fell in the end zone last week too. So he's still getting a decent amount of volume here in an Atlanta offense that is throwing the ball more all of a sudden. Michael Mayer, I think that's a sneaky long-term play. As we continue to go forward. I want to see it for another week, but I do think that he could find himself into tight end relevance here by, week 11 or 12. So I think you're a couple weeks ahead on that if you have the bench spot. But for this week, I would say Kmet, then Jonnu, then Mayer.
Alrighty, let's go ahead and get into the Thursday night matchup here. All right, so Thursday night football, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the New Orleans Saints. Jacksonville favored by 1, the over-under 45. And this is an interesting line movement on this one that's happened since even last night going through this. But thoughts on this game?
New Orleans.
Yeah. Look, is Trevor Lawrence going to play? That's the question, right? And if Trevor Lawrence plays, that changes the line dramatically. I think that's probably a 3-4 point swing one way or the other. So if Trevor Lawrence doesn't play, I'm on New Orleans because I don't trust CJ Beathard. By the way, I had to look up who Jacksonville's backup quarterback was. CJ Beathard, for everybody who cares. I don't trust him to power the Jaguars past the Saints in New Orleans. So I'm going to go New Orleans in this one. I think even if Trevor Lawrence plays, I don't know that he's at 100%. And while he is a prolific passer, his legs do cause defenses problems on occasion. And if you take away that option, it just makes it easier on the defense. So I'll take New Orleans. I'll take the under because I don't know that either team's offense is necessarily going to have a great go of things. And then my prop that I'll take is ETN over 60.5 rushing yards.
Fair enough. I'm taking New Orleans in the under.
Fair enough. I'll be the odd one out here. So Jacksonville, and this is when I said earlier that this was a crazy line. This line was the one that moved tremendously over the last 8 hours of the day. So line started off with Jacksonville, a road favorite by a point there, right? Then it shifted to New Orleans by about 1.5 as the home favorite on that one. News came out about Trevor Lawrence. The line shifted all the way to New Orleans being a 3-point favorite to now Trevor Lawrence coming back out and showing during his presser saying that he was going to do it. The line shifted back, and now it's kind of ended right back up there with Jacksonville being a point favorite on the road. I am going to take Jacksonville on this one. I do think that they find a way to squeak this one out on the road. A lot of that has to do with the fact that New Orleans is really bad against the spread this season. And on games that they've hit on the lines where the line has hit a -1.5 in favor of New Orleans, where they've been a 1.5 favorite on the line, they're 0-4-1 on that one there. So, not a fan there. I am taking the under. Every single one of New Orleans games this year has hit the under on this one. The highest scoring affair total has been 37 points on this one. Jacksonville's 3-3 on the over-unders on this one here as well. So I'm taking the under here as well. As far as a prop that I really like, it's Chris Olave gonna get some work in here and get some things done. I'm thinking that he's gonna go over his 61.5 receiving prop.
I like Rashid Shaheed over 35.5 receiving.
I like it. Any other thoughts on this game?
Hopefully it's better than last Thursday's.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. This game doesn't blow your socks off necessarily, but there are fantasy implications, right? ETN, Kamara, Olave, Ridley, Kirk, Lawrence, Evan Ingram. There's tons of fantasy relevant players in this matchup, but due to bye weeks, I think in most cases you're starting these guys. There's not too many people who are going to have the luxury this week of steering away from this matchup if you're unsure of it. And quite frankly, with the way that ETN and Alvin Kamara have been playing the last couple weeks, really ETN the last 3+, he's kind of in must-start territory right now anyway. So buckle up, get your popcorn ready. It's football on Thursday night, so we know it's going to be a little subpar.
Fair enough. And I've got both Ridley and Olave on the home roster there. So anybody that wants to try and sway some good mojo for their team, you'd let me know. Hit us up in the things, and we can see if we can work out a deal to bench that deal. So just I kid. But anyway, that'd be crazy if that actually worked there. Anyway, all right, let's go ahead and head on over to the Pines and the Shines here for week 7, and keep an eye on the chat here. If anybody has some of those questions, comments, go ahead and throw them in there, and let's hit those things up here. But let's go ahead and hit up Pine and Shine time for week 7. The Pine, of course, are guys that we think are going to miss their projections, underperform their projections. Maybe not necessarily that you need to bench outright, but guys that you need to be cautious of and plan around in your fantasy matchup here. Alex, why don't you go ahead and start us off here with the running backs?
So I'm going to go with Roschon Johnson this week. I just don't know that he gets enough love. I think there's another running back on the team that gets a majority of the carries. So I'll go with Roschon Johnson, who's projected running back 17 and 11 points.
Fair enough. I am pining Jonathan Taylor going up against the Cleveland Brownies, currently at running back 19 with a projected score of 12.3. Him and Moss continue to split time. Moss is still, he's not going away. He did well enough to earn a role in this offense. So JT is not the workhorse that we saw him a year or two ago. And Cleveland's defense, pretty stinking good here. So I think we're going to be in for another low-scoring affair. We'll touch up on that one on Friday, but I am pining Jonathan Taylor.
I like that call so much that I did that one too. That's all right. Let's roll with it. We'll just have some fun with it. Unless you've got another one ready to go.
No, I'll find one. My fault. I'm a dippy-do.
While you're looking, I'll go ahead and rock through while I was looking at the Jonathan Taylor. Very much the same thing that Kevin said, right? Cleveland Browns up against it. They are the 30th ranked defense in allowing points to opposing fantasy running backs. So top 3 defense in allowing points to opposing fantasy running backs here. He's ranked 19th, projected to do 10.6 points. Not going to surprise me if we see an RB3 type of performance for him. Zach Moss has done very well on this one, and we seem to be looking at a ramp-up period for Jonathan Taylor to kind of get back here into kind of that football shape type of deal here, and really, game shape type of thing here. And so it's not going to surprise me if we see him not even get to 10 carries again on the ground here.
I can give Kevin a freebie, and it's his teammate.
No, I'm going to go with Alexander Madison.
Even better.
Going up against San Francisco.
Gotcha. Did you have the rank and points there?
The rank is 20 and 11.7 is the projected total.
Like it. All righty. Let's go ahead and head on into the wide receivers.
That's me. Hang on, gotta get to where I was at. I'm gonna go with Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is projected to finish wide receiver 6 this week. The Lions gonna go play a tough Ravens team. Look, I think the Lions have been really, really good this year. Jared Goff has been really good. Just think that the Ravens will key in on Amon-Ra St. Brown and make other people beat them. So that's where I'm going to go. Looking for hero calls to get back in this thing.
I almost took him as a shine.
That will come. That's going to happen this year.
I'm going to pine Calvin Ridley this week going up against the New Orleans Saints on Thursday night. Again, Marshawn Lattimore will most likely be on Ridley most of the night. Trevor Lawrence if he plays a bum knee. So he's not going to be able to be extremely mobile this game. Short rest. Ridley's been underperforming all year long. So currently he's wide receiver 18, projected total of 11.1. If you can, stay clear.
Fair enough. I've got Keenan Allen as my pine. He's number 5 on the week here for the projections here. Projected to do 14.6 points, but he's going up against Kansas City. Kansas City's defense has been pretty good all year long here, and I don't see that changing here. So while I know a lot of folks are probably hoping that we see a Kansas City Chiefs Chargers shootout type of thing, I don't think that one's going to happen here. Right now, the Chiefs are the second worst team to get fantasy points on overall, and they 28th against wide receivers. So they give up the 4th fewest points on to opposing fantasy wide receivers here. And I think this is a game where we see Keenan Allen have a little bit of a slowdown here. Not necessarily seeing those, 10, 20 target type of things. I think we're going to see, a target range probably more around 6, 7, maybe 8 on the high side there. So looking for him to miss that projection. Let's go ahead and hit up the tight ends.
All right, tight ends. I'm going to go Dallas Goedert this week. Tight end 5 projected 8.8 points.
Fair enough. I am pining Mark Andrews this week going up against the Detroit Lions. They've been extremely physical. They're biting kneecaps, grinding, all the cliches that you want to throw out there. But they've just been playing really good football, and they have not been giving it up to the tight end whatsoever. So I think this is going to be a focal point for this defense, is make Lamar Jackson beat you outside the numbers if he's going to beat you. And because of that, Mark Andrews will struggle.
Fair enough. My tight end pine, I'm going to take Evan Ingram in this Thursday night game. He's projected to be the tight end 8, about 7.6 points, up against that tough New Orleans defense, right? New Orleans allowing the 25th fewest points to opposing tight ends. So they do not give up many points here. Points come at a premium on the position and really come at a premium for fantasy against the Saints here. I see this as a very low scoring, grinded out game with Trevor Lawrence potentially a little bit hobbled here. So Evan Ingram, I'm looking for him to miss his projection. All righty, let's go ahead and head on into the Shine. And after the Shine, we'll hit up all the questions in the chat there. All righty, so we're hitting up the Shines here, and the Shines are guys that we are going to think that are going to outperform their projections and do very well for you on this week. Let's go ahead and start it up with the running backs. Alex, lead it off.
So I was first in the show doc this week, which means I got first crack at the running back going up against the Denver Broncos. It's not Aaron Jones, but it is AJ Dillon. So I'm going to take AJ Dillon. Even if Jones does play, I think the Broncos give up so many damn rushing yards that it's not going to matter. So I'll go AJ Dillon here, who is projected running back 33, 7.6 points.
I'm going to go with Craig Reynolds. There has to be someone for Detroit that can go up in between the tackles. Jahmyr Gibbs is just not built that way, right? Like, he is outside the tackles, receiving some gadgetry plays. You want to get him in open space and let him be electric. Craig Reynolds will lower those shoulder pads and try and drive people back. And I think that's what he's going to be able to do against Baltimore right now. Currently, his rank is RB 38 with a projected total of 7.4. I think people are kind of holding out hope here on this David Montgomery injury, thinking that he'll play. We're going to see how it shakes out. It's looking like he's going to miss this week against Baltimore. So with that being the case, I'm saying Craig Reynolds steps up in a big way.
I like it. I'm going to take a running back that kind of opposes Alex's pine there. Same backfield. So I'm going to take Donta Foreman, who's currently the RB 30 on the week. He's projected to do about 8 points going up against the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders kind of a middle of the pack when it comes to giving up a total fantasy points to opposing offenses. However, they give up lots of fantasy points to the opposing running backs. They give up the 6th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. So looking for Donta Foreman to have a very good week here. Let's go ahead and hit up the wide receivers.
All right, my wide receiver, I'm going to go with Rashee Rice. Facts are facts, and the Chargers give up the most passing yards against anyone in the league. I look for Patrick Mahomes to exploit that at home.
Fair enough. I'm going Wan'Dale Robinson. He's slowly starting to get more involved in this Giants offense. Tyrod Taylor was able to find him a little bit here against the Buffalo Bills, and I think that this continues. They need someone to be dynamic besides just banking on Darren Waller. And at the moment, I think Wan'Dale Robinson might have the hot hand here for the Giants. So currently, wide receiver 42, projected total of 7 points. I think he's going to be able to eclipse that here in a divisional matchup against the Commanders.
I like it. I'm going to target a wide receiver in that same game of the Giants and Commanders, but I'm taking the opposite side of the ball here. I'm going to go with Curtis Samuel, who is currently the wide receiver 37, projected to do about 8.8 points on this one. Now, the Giants haven't necessarily given up. Like, the matchup doesn't scream great matchup here as far as fantasy goes because of, everybody's been getting the job done on the ground against the Giants. The Giants offense also not getting the job done much there. So defense also playing into that. But that being the case, we've seen 3 weeks in a row of a top 20 finish from Curtis Samuel. And I'm going to kind of ride that hot hand. So one of those, this guy's kind of getting overlooked. He's currently a wide receiver 4 kind of projection and ranking on the week, coming off of 3 straight top 20 weeks. So this is one of those, I'm riding more of a hot hand necessarily over the matchup, but I think that Curtis Samuel can get up there and can get into wide receiver 2 territory again. Hit up tight ends.
I thought I was going to be really smart with this. I'm going to go Michael Mayer going up against the Bears. Don't think Garoppolo's going to play, so I believe, as you all know, I've said it once, I'll say it a million times, a good pass-catching tight end is a young quarterback's best friend. Now, the last time that Aiden O'Connell started a game for the Raiders, he didn't throw it to Michael Mayer. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully he has discovered this in the last couple of weeks.
Fair enough. I am going to go with Durham Smythe for the Miami Dolphins. The Philadelphia Eagles give up yards to the tight end much more freely than they do the wide receiver position as a whole. And I think Durham Smythe is going to be able to capitalize with Philadelphia being so focused in on Tyreek and Devonta Smith that he's able to surpass his tight end 30 rank and his 3.3 projection.
Fair enough. I really thought about taking that Durham Smythe call. I just didn't have the intestinal fortitude to.
I just need the end zone, right? Like I just need the end zone, and this hits. Now it's hard to bank on that, but this is kind of one of those. If he falls in, I make up a bunch of points instantly.
That's very true.
That's kind of what this game is with the tight ends, right?
Yes,
will this guy score a touchdown this week? Pine or shine?
Yeah.
Anytime. And if you're like me, you take George Kittle and he finds the end zone 3 times and screws you royally.
That was a bad one. All right. My pine is going to be Luke Musgrave. And we've said it many times. The Broncos give up points like it's their job to give up points to opposing fantasy players, and running backs, tight ends, where they give up the most fantasy points to it. So the Broncos allow the most fantasy points to opposing fantasy tight ends here. Luke Musgrave currently ranked at tight end 11. He's projected to do about 7 points. Not going to surprise me if we see him drastically outshine this, find the end zone once, maybe even twice on this one, and get probably 4 for 50 yards on this one. So I think that we can see a very, very good week out of Luke Musgrave. Any other thoughts here on the pine and the shine?
No, Alex and I got some work to do, man. We got to catch up to you.
Should we next week show the standing totals for the halfway point of the fantasy season?
Sure.
Let's build that into it. Okay. So we'll showcase where we're at on the pine and shine and give kind of that peek behind the curtains on where all those points are going and how they're accumulating. So, all right, we'll build that in for next week. Let's go ahead and hit up some of the questions before we get into our redraft 2 rounds for week 6 and rest of season type of deal. First question, we've got Caden, the Colts fans, 10-team Superflex starting lineups is Trevor Lawrence, Sam Howell, Mixon, Roshan, Cook, Pierce, AJ Brown, CD, Garrett Wilson, Zay Jones, Kyle Pitts. Anything I should do, or should I just sit back and ride that roster out?
Well, pay attention to T-Law.
Yeah, I'd still roll. That's super flex, so you're going to be starting both of them.
Yeah.
Pierce is a little concerning off of what they've kind of been doing from a usage standpoint down there in Houston. Devin Singletary is drastically cutting into Pierce's snap share and carries. So I'd keep an eye on that one.
And he has to play him this week.
Yeah. He really does.
Right? Unless we're missing something, right? Like you're well, I guess he doesn't have to. And you're playing Mixon, Roshan, Cook. So
right.
Cook would be your flex, or Roshan would be your flex, and then Brown and Zay.
But Mixon's on bye still.
Oh, Mixon is too. That's right. So he has to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to play Roshan, Cook. I mean, I think a lot of it depends on what's on your waiver wire. I don't know that it'd be a bad idea to see if you could pick up a Zach Evans possibly for this week. Like, keep an eye on the Christian McCaffrey injury. If he's not able to suit up, this is one of those situations where you grab Jordan Mason or
Zay Flowers sounds like he's on the waiver there. And he's saying that he's 4-2, and if he has to lose a week, he can lose a week here.
Then I think you're all right.
6 teams on a bye.
Yeah.
Welcome to week 7. We all knew when we were drafting.
It's a tough
week
week.
7 was going to suck.
Yeah, it's a tough week, right? So yeah, if you can afford it and you're good with it, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, who knows? Brown and Flowers might carry you a little bit.
Yeah, and he's saying it's Zay Flowers, not Zay Jones. So I made that mistake earlier. But yeah, I mean, anything that you could think of that maybe he should target rest of the season, maybe try and make a trade or anything like that might bolster this roster up a little bit?
You'd obviously like a little bit of help at running back, right? Mixon has been okay, but he has not been elite by any stretch, and he definitely hasn't had kind of that big blow-up game that you want him to have. He's traded for Mixon. Okay, so you got him
probably on a buy low there.
Yeah, so you got him on a buy low. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with knowing that. I think that gives you some upside here, thinking that they'll continue to work him in as the Bengals look more like themselves here these past couple weeks than they did the first 3 or 4. So I think I'm all right with that. Roshan, we expect to take over. I still like Cook a lot, right? Like, I understand that they're, he's kind of getting 47% of the snap share, basically, splitting with now why can't I remember his name?
Talking Roshan splitting?
No, with Cook splitting.
Oh, Damian Harris, but Damian Harris.
Not Harris. It was. He's a.
Are you thinking Lat Murray?
Yeah, Lat Murray. There you go. The difference is Lat Murray didn't go anywhere, right? Like, if you go back and look at that film, James Cook is by far a better runner than Lat Murray is. So he just needs to see a little bit more receiving work than 0 catches from Josh Allen, who is only focused on Stephon Diggs. So I think you're all right. And I like your wide receivers. Norman Pittman for T-Law, Mixon, Wilson.
That was the trade it sounds like you made.
Okay.
So
I'm good with that trade, honestly. Like,
yeah.
The injury kind of is a bummer for Trevor Lawrence, but get Mixon, get some running back help, which is good. And Garrett Wilson, I still like Garrett Wilson. I think that they're going to continue to find ways to get him involved in this offense. And as Breece Hall goes, I think Garrett Wilson kind of goes with him, right? Because it just takes a little bit of pressure off of Garrett Wilson. And Breece Hall has shown that he is dynamic enough that even against a loaded box, he's going to find a way to get you 4 or 5 a clip. And he's good for at least 1 or 2 big pass plays and a run of, 15 yards. So I think you're all right. Pitts is starting to emerge, which is a good thing. Can kind of see some of that bubbling up here over the past couple of weeks. So I do think you have a team on the upswing. So for being 4-2, I think you have a lot of positive regression coming towards your team, even on top of that.
I like it. Alrighty, next question. Alex, any other thoughts there? Would you hold off on waivers with this week with the lineup I named earlier to keep from dropping Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, CJ Stroud, Tank Dell, T. Higgins, Kyron Williams, Achane, and the Ravens?
If you're going to drop anybody, you're dropping Dell.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
But
the rest of those guys have a spot in your lineup.
Yeah, right.
Either when they return or, when they're off a bye. Like, just they have a spot.
Yeah. A-Chain's coming back. I mean, you're going to have a heck of a running back trio with Hall, A-Chain, and Williams.
Yeah.
When they're off of buys and back healthy going down the stretch. So I think you're going to like that. Higgins, I still think is going to come around, right? Like, he's not going to return the back end of round 2, top end of round 3 value that you drafted him at. But I do think his time will come and he will end up eventually getting his And like I just said with Wilson, like as Hall goes, I think Wilson goes. So no, I don't think you need to do anything, Terrence.
Fair enough. All righty. Let's go ahead and hit this one. Waiver wire names that they can get: Jerome Ford, Donta Foreman, London, Bourne, Harris, Dobbs, Palmer, Osborne, Josh Downs, Marvin Mims, AJ Dillon, Tutu, Wandale, Elijah Moore, Slayton, Julio, Rondell Moore, Kadarius Toney. Any changes?
I'd pick up Jerome Ford, and I'd probably pick up Drake.
There's his lineup there.
I'd pick up Ford over Algier right now.
Yep. Agreed.
And then I'd probably pick up London for whichever tight end you're not playing this week, right? We said we suggested Musgrave, and drop Everett, and then you're just going to have to stream. If you find a tight end with a better matchup the next week, then you're going to drop Musgrave and pick him up. Like you're just going to be truly streaming tight end.
Mm-hmm.
But again, Drake London, as the Falcons continue to pass the ball more, I think that's a piece that provides some upside as you get in through some of these bye weeks to help you out. If not London, possibly Dobbs, I think would be kind of right behind him. So those would be the three guys that I would look to add out of this list. I would drop Algier for Ford right now. I think that instantly helps your roster. And then London or Dobbs for Everett. And then you're going to bounce through and just play a streaming tight end game each week.
Absolutely. Cosign. Gigi saying, let's say CMC gets re-injured or misses games down the stretch. Who's the better pickup between Mason Mitchell? My thoughts are if CMC misses time down the stretch, we're going to see the San Francisco running back devolve into what we saw pre-CMC being there. So, right, you think about the years of Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert, and you didn't know which one to start. You think about the years of, all of these guys, where it just kind of becomes a ride the hot hand and all of that. So I don't know that you necessarily get one or the other that's going to step in and get that CMC usage between either one of these guys. I think it truly becomes a running back by committee with Deebo Samuel getting in the mix there too.
I would, if you're going to pick one of the two, I'd pick Mason. Mitchell has been injured. He has had some injury concerns in the past after kind of being the lead guy there. So yes, Mitchell's done it before. Mason's done a really good job backing up CMC to this point, and Mitchell has an injury history. So between the two, if CMC does go down long-term, I would be going after Jordan Mason.
There you go. Any other thoughts on that one, Alex? All right. Terrence asking Reynolds over Harris. I'm going to assume that that's Craig Reynolds over Najee Harris, and I'm going to assume the question is starting this week.
Yes.
Okay. Any opposing thoughts? Okay. Cosigns. Terrence saying the Browns are the streamer defense. Should I just start the Ravens defense? I usually start them every week. Man, I'm probably rolling the Browns defense here.
I'm rolling the Browns against the Colts.
Absolutely the Browns
over the Ravens against Detroit.
Yes.
I picked up. So I
absolutely roll the Browns.
Were we on? I don't remember if we were live or if this was pre-show. I picked up the Browns everywhere last week that I could. Anybody who dropped them because of their bye week, I snatched them up and I just found a roster space for them to hold them for 1 week. And then I'll, dealt with it last week, essentially after they played again. So, yeah, I would play the Browns over the Ravens.
The Browns are salty. Browns are the best defense in the league right now. So play the Browns.
They're just intense.
They should not be your streamer
They're
defense.
intense. They're not giving it up. Gardner Minshew looked like poo. I think the Browns realize that they're going to be pretty one-dimensional, right? Like you're going to stick some attention on Pittman, a little bit of attention on Downs, and then you're not worried about anybody else in the passing game, and then it's just stopping the run.
Yeah. And this week, to be honest, there's one defense that I would play over the Browns, And that's just because the Buffalo Bills are playing the New England Patriots. Like the
Yeah.
Bills have a decent enough defense, but the matchup is very plus on that one. So that would be the only team that you could throw out there that I'd be like, this week I'm going to go with the Bills over the Browns as a starting defense. We had one other thing here. And so Caden was saying that JT's usage is only going to get ramped up. He's buying him in every league, double touches from last week to this week. I get that, but at the same time, like this is one of those that they've got a very bad matchup, and they've got a whole lot of questions still on that one. Any other thoughts on that?
No, I see why, right? And just don't. We struggle with this at times. And so I'm not saying you're doing this. I'm just putting it out there as a PSA. Don't let your homerism and your cult shaded glasses distract you from the fact that he's never going to own that backfield completely now.
Yeah.
Like Zach Moss did a good enough job that, yes, Jonathan Taylor's talent will earn him a larger snap share, and he might have a higher percentage in that offense. And yes, he did just get paid, but for this season, the Colts are trying to win football games, right? So until they're completely out of it, Moss hasn't done anything to just get benched and forgotten about. He has been really, really serviceable, both before JT came back and the 2 games since JT's returned.
Right. When you look at another running back that missed the preseason, missed a lot of time there, inevitably took him about 3-4 weeks to kind of get back into some fantasy, real fantasy relevance. And I'm talking about Josh Jacobs there, right? Like JT still very much in that kind of ramp up period and that getting back into game shape, football shape type of thing there. So any other thoughts on anything there? Are we ready to redraft the first 2 rounds through
Let's
week
draft.
6? All right.
Let's draft.
All right, Alex, you have got pick 101, then Kevin, then me, and we just rotate through.
I think this might be controversial, but I'm going to go Tyreek Hill. Knowing what I know, I'm going Tyreek Hill 101.
Fair enough. I'm going Stephon Diggs. A couple big weeks. Allen's hyper targeting him. The Monday night game was a bit of a fluke, but Allen was leading the league in completion percentage coming in, so he's absolutely connecting on those and kind of rebounding from what was a down year last year. So I'm loving what Diggs is doing.
Fair enough. That was me that completely spaced there, but I'm going to take CMC. Yes, I get that he's injured. I get that there's lots of things there, but I get that performance through the first 6 weeks where he's outpaced just about everybody out there, especially in the running back room, and does not appear that injury is going to be long-term here. So I think we're going to get him down the stretch here as well. And the Avs must have done something really good there.
They scored 3-1.
I saw the fist bump.
It was Miko. It's my turn now. I'm going to go Bijan Robinson here at 4. He's been productive. I think he's going to be productive the rest of the season. So I'll take Bijan there. Feel comfortable with that.
Fair enough. I am going to go with Keenan Allen. Get the bye week out of the way early. Started out with a tear. And with the Mike Williams injury, continues to be the primary focus for Justin Herbert. So Keenan Allen at pick 5.
Fair enough. I'm going to take Jamar Chase. Even though he got off to that slow start, we've seen a couple of monster weeks here and, seems to be peaking at the right time here as we start heading down the stretch.
All right. My next pick, I'm going to go Travis Etienne at pick 7 here. I think the Jaguars are using him the way that we hope they would use him. And I think that continues on even with the Lawrence injury. I still think that he gets his, maybe even more so than if Lawrence was fully healthy.
Fair enough. Pick 8, I'm taking Raheem Mostert. I'm getting me a piece of this Dolphins offense, and he has had monster weeks both with A-Chain by his side, thank you, Denver, and without. Now knowing that Mostert's down for the next 3 weeks, right? He was put on. Sorry, yes, Devon A-Chain was put on IR. I'm going to see more and more of that, even with Jeff Wilson coming back. So Mostert at pick 8.
I like that one. I am going to take Travis Kelce. Take that tight end, take that difference maker here, who's still tight end 1 and a difference maker at the position.
Very good. I'm going at pick 10 here, Kenneth Walker. He's been solid this year. I know there was a lot of people that were concerned that Zach Charbonnet was going to eat into his usage. Hasn't happened so far. So I like Kenneth Walker here at pick number 10.
Pick 11, Kyron Williams. Knowing that the Rams are dealt Cam Akers and that this backfield is really solely to his own. Yes, he had the ankle sprain here at the end of week 6, but I do think that that'll be a short-term problem. Has really, really been a good focal point for the Rams offense and helping them keep balanced. Fair
enough. I like it. So we've got the turnaround here with last pick of the first round, pick 12. Going to take DeAndre Swift, who has been very, very good. Usage has been very good. Would hope for a little bit more touchdown work here, but still getting the job done for you, fantasy. And then we're going to turn around. We're going to take Tony Pollard, who, again, guy that's been getting the job done and doing very, very well here for the top pick in the second round.
Sorry, bounce back to me. AJ Brown, right? Down first week, cried about it a little bit. His quarterback hurt him, and AJ Brown has been on a tear here the last couple of weeks. Even if he's not getting in the end zone, he is going over 100 yards and he is a force to be reckoned with right now.
All right, so here is where I struggle with this exercise, and not because I struggle with this exercise, but I struggle with, what is important to me is knowing what I know, right? And we all know what we know about the first 6 weeks of the season and understanding what we think we might know about the final 11, 12 weeks of the season. So do you take the player that is currently not playing? Because that's been driving a lot of the picks here, right? Look, he's been really good when he was healthy. And yes, he's going to miss some time here, but I'm going to go Justin Jefferson here. Again, very effective while he was in the lineup. Yes, he's missing time, but man, is he is head and shoulders the top wide receiver in that offense, in that division. Hell, even maybe in the entire NFC, and you could argue the league. Even missing time, I still think he's worth having on your roster.
Fair enough. I'm going to take a stroll back down memory lane here and take Adam Thielen, who has just kind of come on, been the number 1 target here for a young Bryce Young, and really putting up some great performances. And I think that he's going to do very well down the stretch here too.
I'm going to say Breece Hall, right? I know that it's a slow start here. Had a decent first week of the season, a little bit slow weeks 2, 3, and 4, but week 5 against the Broncos, week 6 against the Eagles, really started to ramp things up, and now he is off and running. And this team looks a whole lot different with Breece Hall touching the ball 20 times a game. So I'm more than happy to take Breece Hall here in the middle of the second round.
I'm going to go with another guy who was injured but is back. Bye week is out of the way now. Bye week helped get this guy back. And I'm going to go with Austin Eckler.
Of course you would. That was the pick that I was going to take there. So I'm gonna have to pivot here. I'm going to take a guy that is, in another high-powered offense, and an offense that we've seen do very well, is the number 1 target for Jared Goff, and that is Amon-Ra St. Brown.
I like that pick. I was eyeing that pick. Man, I think. All right, I'm gonna bust the seal here. Josh Allen.
Yeah, I
I'm
knew you
gonna
were
take
going
the
to
quarterback.
Well, because I'm doing it right after you. You're going Josh Allen?
Yep, Josh Allen. Yep, I'm going Josh Allen.
Cool.
Back into the second round or middle, whatever of the second round. Kind of about where he was going, but continues to put up numbers. Yes, a subpar game, if you will, against the Giants. Still had 2 touchdowns.
I'm going to go Patrick Mahomes here. I think there's a case to be made for Jalen Hurts at this point, but I'll go Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, it's been a rough year in terms of the turnovers, and he doesn't have quite the receiving options. But I believe the Chiefs to figure it out. So he's been fine, better than fine, realistically, subpar, but from what we've grown to expect out of Patrick Mahomes the first 6 weeks. You just have to believe that this Chiefs team will continue to grow and figure each other out, and Patrick Mahomes will inevitably start getting crazy points.
Fair enough. I didn't want to do it. Did not want to do it. But
I saw you write it.
Yeah, well, I don't want to get left out of this quarterback. This quarterback deal, and so I'm actually going to go Jalen Hurts right here.
No, fair enough. I'm going to go Josh Jacobs here, then pick 23, if you will. Got through the growing pains. Yes, we knew we were going to have them, but I do think that the Raiders' schedule opens up a little bit here. So you struggled through the first couple weeks, and I think now we're going to see him start to hit his stride a little bit, even though they've been struggling to run the ball through the first quarter of the season.
All right, so I have the last pick here, and there's a couple different things that I'd like to say before I make this selection, and realistically, I'm just going to be talking through this. Where I'm looking right now is a Devon Achane, who was spectacular for a couple weeks, right? And despite being, again, the same case that you make for Justin Jefferson, despite being, missing time, I still think comes back and puts together a fantastic rookie season. There's a case to be made for Puka Nacua, right? There's a huge case to be made for Puka Nacua, which is the steal right now of the draft or of the season, who he probably wasn't even drafted in most leagues. The best free agent dark horse this year. I think
that's not either one I thought you were going with.
Okay. I think there's a case to be made for Saquon Barkley here. Who are you thinking I was going to go with?
Your boy. Kupp.
Cooper Kupp?
You get through the first quarter of the season. You knew he was going to be on IR.
Right.
But now you've seen 2 weeks with him back, and the hyper targets come back instantly.
Back in force, right?
Now, Nacua got the touchdown in week 5, right? So that helps.
Right.
But week 6, we saw what happened, right? Like, if he doesn't get to the end zone, it's a mediocre flex play. And my concern with Nacua would be how much of that continues since we have seen that.
Yeah.
But the start, right? It gets you through, right?
It got you through.
Gets you through the first quarter of the season, just riding Nacua.
I'll go Achane here. Whatever.
Nothing wrong with that.
There you go. So interestingly enough, right? Like went through and also found the top ADP, top 24 picks out there, and some notable names not on the draft list here. Justin Jefferson going much later than his ADP.
Again, I think we were scared. We're scared. Recency bias. We're scared from that injury, right? We've seen what this team looks like without him.
Right.
And now defenses also know that, right?
Right. Nick Chubb, obviously the injury there goes from a 8th overall pick to not drafted. Saquon Barkley was 9th, falls outside the top.
And there's a case to be made for Saquon here. Obviously, he missed some time too. I think there's a case. Again, I was kind of in between here.
Right. CD Lamb was a guy that did not make it on here. Cooper Kupp was a guy that did not make it on here. Derrick Henry, Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, and Jalen Waddle and Chris Olave. So some very hyped up receivers, and some running backs there that just did not make the cut into our first 2 rounds drafting here.
Are there any of the outside of Chubb, right, injured? Outside of Chubb, the names that you listed, are they all gone by the top end of the third or front half of the third round?
Waddle, I don't know if he goes, right. Olave, maybe he does. A lot of folks are not necessarily sold on the Derrick Henry trade. Are they Derrick Henry side of things there?
I don't think Derrick Henry goes.
His big weeks have been big, and his bad weeks have been hurting.
Really bad.
And I have Henry a lot in Dynasty.
I think most of those guys go. I think,
Right.
CD, I think at a certain point you start to be like, well, it's still CD freaking Lamb. Like,
well, and I think we saw week 6, right? He finally screamed at McCarthy a little bit through the media, like, get me the damn ball. And they did, and it helped them. Like, he didn't get in the end zone, but you need CD to be able to see, he needs to see 8 to 10 targets a game, no matter what. And whatever he can do with those is great, because if he's seeing 8 targets a game, you should be sitting at 6 catches for 85 yards minimum. Like, that should be a baseline, all right? And if you're talking half-point PPR, that's, great. You're looking at 11.5 points as a baseline.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I think most of those guys go, with the exception of Chubb and perhaps Henry. I think.
I'd tell you he would. I probably would have ended up taking him, based off of how you guys may or may not have picked. There's a good chance he would have been gone.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
It's fun though to see kind of where you go. Obviously, like, there's much more Dolphins flair than there was. I mean, look, we all knew that the Dolphins were going to be fun and going to, put up numbers, right? But nobody's put up numbers like they've put up in the first 6 weeks of a season. So that helps, right? It's a little bit more Dolphins flair, and it's different Dolphins flair than we thought. We were all like, which running back is it going to be? It turns out it doesn't matter which running back it is.
Right.
Yeah, very true. All righty, let's hit up some questions here before we call it a night. Terrence, should I drop Jake Moody and pick up Brett Maher?
Sure. Is Brett Maher playing inside?
Hold on. I don't have kicker rankings, so I got to go
That's
to my
my
cheat
rule.
sheet here.
Moody's at Minnesota. Brett Maher's at home in SoFi.
Oh, so they're both playing inside. Moody might have a little case of the yips after last week. I'll go Brett Maher.
So I'd go with Moody. I think that will be a higher point total than – I think the 49ers and the Vikings will be a higher point total than the Rams and the Steelers.
Sure.
Do you one better? Pick up Nick Folk or Kaimi Fairbairn.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. Any other thoughts on that one? I think I'd side with you, Kevin, on the other pickups there.
No. I mean, if Maher's there, go for it. I mean, I think he might be the number 1 rated kicker right now. So, and the thing with that is, the Rams are going to be able to move the ball right now.
Right.
Stafford's healthy. Kupp is back. Nakua is shining. Yes, they want to run the ball.
Kyron's a freaking stud.
Has been awesome when he's been healthy. So they are moving the ball. So I don't mind the Maher pickup at all. But yes, I'd absolutely drop Moody and pick up someone who is scoring more points. I'm not going to say better, but just scoring more points.
Fair enough. Pate, I just got offered Calvin Ridley for Marquise Hollywood Brown straight up. What do I do?
Take it.
Well, it's tough, right? Because Marquise Hollywood Brown has four of his 6 games, he's seen double-digit targets. So he's seeing lots of targets, seeing lots of volume. Calvin Ridley wishes that he was seeing that number of targets. Calvin Ridley managers wish that they were seeing that thing. But Calvin Ridley's been really bad for you. Marquise Hollywood Brown's at least gotten you a couple of more consistent finishes just because he's getting double-digit targets. But the Ridley ceiling is much higher than the Marquise Brown. So Ridley is a ceiling play. Hollywood Brown's a floor play. And I will tell you, as a Calvin Ridley manager, it's been extremely frustrating having him on your roster. So I may not be the best person to give advice on this one because I'm a bit of a scorned.
And on top of that, you've had a soft spot for Hollywood for a while. So
ever since he was wearing crimson and cream.
I mean, Hollywood's averaging 9 targets a game. He has 3 touchdowns this year already. The challenge is, right, Arizona's schedule coming up here is
Brutal.
tough. Like at Seattle is their 1+ matchup. Then they have Baltimore, Cleveland, Atlanta, Houston, and then the Rams again. So you have the middle of the season to fight through. If you can get through that part of the season, your playoff schedule is great. Pittsburgh bye. San Francisco's a little tough.
Right, but then you get Chicago
and
Philadelphia.
Chicago and Philly, who've both been giving it up, right? So I want to believe that the best of Calvin Ridley is yet to come. I want to believe that. I also was not high on Brown coming into the season. I have 0 Hollywood Brown anywhere. I am surprised that they've been able to target him this much. I am shocked that Dobbs has been able to kind of come up with this. But even through all that, Hollywood Brown, I mean, 1 wide receiver 1 finish.
Yeah, it's been a tough go. He's been
it's been wide receiver 2, right? He's a consistent wide receiver 2. Ridley's been a consistent wide receiver 3 with wide receiver 1 upside. So very much with what Derek said, right? Like if you want the consistency, you keep with Brown and hope that the next 5 weeks can balance out and you'll be okay. If you don't want to fight all these tough matchups, then yeah, you do the deal and you hope Ridley can just shine through.
And here's another thought too, right? Like you're sitting in the prime position if you're got the Ridley versus the Marquise Brown there and you're on the Marquise Brown side of it and they're trying to come after that one there. See if you can't, finesse something else out of the deal. If you can get a little something extra on top of that. Because you're talking about, Marquise Hollywood Brown is the 16th wide receiver through six weeks here in half-point PPR scoring, whereas Ridley is the, 25th. So you're talking about, they're trying to sell you on the upside and the peak and all of that kind of stuff. But you look at him and go, hey, I've got the wide receiver that's 9 spots ahead of you and is firmly in wide receiver 2. You've got the guy that's a really good wide receiver 3. Let's see if you can't get a little something extra on a positional need there. If you can maybe potentially add a little bit of a tight end type of deal on top of that to upgrade whatever your tight end is. Like there's some other things that you can do there that you could potentially get a little bit of something extra on.
Here's something to think about. Calvin Ridley and half-point PPR is 0.3 points better than Cortland Sutton.
Mm-hmm.
And just think to yourself what you think about of Cortland Sutton.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a hard swallow, man. Like,
and you take that in a step further, right? Josh Reynolds, a guy that's consistently out there on waiver wires, is on a per game basis 0.1 points less. Scores 0.1 points less than what Calvin Ridley does. Like that's a guy that you can pick up off the waiver wires that you're doing some like there's some things out there that you need to be getting a little bit more out of that. You've got the prime position on that.
Yeah, this Ridley deal's just been crazy.
Yep.
Wide receiver 6, 76, 66, 26, 9, 59. Like, what a roller coaster. Derek, I don't envy that. Most of my Ridley shares come in best ball format. Like, I was riding that Ridley train when I was doing a bunch of these best balls, and so it's biting me a little bit now. But quite frankly, it was Ridley, Higgins, Olave, like all those guys. None of those guys, right? All these guys that we thought were kind of in this round. The one that kind of blew it out of the water was Keenan Allen.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, Ridley, Olave, Higgins, Waddle were all kind of bunched up right there. None of these guys have really said, "Hey, look at me."
Right. Yeah, it's tough there. Alrighty. Trade Fields and Dallas defense for Goff.
No.
There's got to be a streaming option out there for you, Terry. Got to drop one to add a defense. McLaughlin, Foreman, or Charbonnet. Charbonnet's his handcuff. I'd probably drop Charbonnet at this point.
I think you could probably drop Charbonnet and then turn on pick him back up after you don't need that defense.
Yep.
Right? Like, I'm assuming you're saying this because you have a defense in hand, Terry, that you don't want to drop, i.e. the Cowboys. So I think you could drop Charbonnet. It's possible someone picks him up, but I think I'd be a little shocked if anyone did at this point. He just hasn't done enough. He means more to you than anybody else by a mile, being the Walker owner. Yep. So I think I gamble with that. If you really want to keep the handcuff, then you drop McLaughlin and pick up a defense, and then you try and do the same thing anyway.
Bingo. Any other thoughts on that one, Alex?
No, I think if you're going to drop, I think McLaughlin is the one. Look, Javonte's coming back. He's going to, I think, start to get the lion's share, and McLaughlin's going to go back to being a complementary piece.
Fair enough. Full point PPR, London versus Tampa Bay or Rashee Rice versus the Chargers?
I go Rashee Rice. Chargers defense is bad.
I think this is a hell of a lot closer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's close, but I'm going Rashee Rice because he was my shine call, so I'm going to stick to my guns.
I can respect that. They're both going to be kind of wide receiver 3 territory for me coming into this week there, Terry. Now, Rashee Rice obviously has the much better matchup than what Drake London has there, but this is not necessarily that Tampa Bay defense of old where, they just shut you down all over the place. They are really good at not allowing many fantasy points out there, 28th overall in total fantasy points allowed in half point PPR, but they're 14th they allow the 14th most there. So where they give up points for fantasy comes through the air on that one. And I'm kind of buying into this Desmond Ridder, them having to throw the ball there a little bit more so. So I think London gives you a better play overall on that one. As gross as that just felt saying that I'm buying into the Desmond Ridder passing experience.
I'm taking London by a hair, but I don't feel comfortable about it.
Yeah. I hear they're really close in my book there as well. Alex was far and away Rashee Rice.
Yep.
All right. Azizi saying, I forgot to mention that they have Monty and Gibbs. Do you think Gibbs will be a good play with Monty out, or should I waiver Craig Reynolds too? Kevin hit that one up a little bit earlier with his call on Craig Reynolds. I believe you had him as your pine there. So,
no.
What's your
shine?
Reynolds is my shine.
No, that's what I meant was your shine, not pan. I'm sorry.
I like Reynolds this week. Yes, this does kind of crack the door open for Gibbs to be used, but Jared Goff is not captain checkdown anymore, right? Like, he's doing a good job of he's not bombing the ball down the field, but he is driving it down the field, and there's a difference there. So, yes, I do think that if Gibbs is healthy, the soft tissue injury scares me a little bit. But I like Reynolds more this week with Monty out. Reynolds is more the natural role that Monty had. He's not going to see 24 carries a game like Monty was, but if you could see 17 out of Craig Reynolds and then the other, 6-7 touches get dispersed, I think that foots the bill for you.
Right, and it's one of those two that when Detroit gets into the red zone, they tend to run the ball. Craig Reynolds is going to be that goal line type of back, so I think that you stand a much better chance of getting a touchdown out of Reynolds than you do Gibbs this week.
Concur.
Mostert and Geno for ETN and Pickett. Who wins ETN? Well, I take that back.
I like the Mostert and Geno side.
Yeah,
I think I like the Mostert and Geno side too, but I like
ETN's the best player in the deal, but I think this is one of those situations that Mostert's got the hot hand. He's playing in a great offense. And yes, Geno's been down from what he did last year. He is not as down as Kenny Pickett has looked. And even with Deontay Johnson coming back, that doesn't cure the offensive line woes that Pittsburgh has had. So if you're starting both players, right, if you don't need to start Pickett, then ETN rest of season for me because he's just not sharing the workload like Mostert could. But if you need to start Pickett, then I go back the other way, and it's Mostert and Geno.
Concur. COD Reaper saying, Kevin, Derek, Alex, thanks for all you do. The good old boys, we're not going to mention the 4-letter network, but we appreciate the thought there. So we appreciate the thought and the sentiment that goes along with that. A couple other questions that came in on the TikTokers there. Howell or Love this week? Sam Howell, Jordan Love.
Love.
I think I'm there too. Hang on.
And I think by a hair.
Yeah, Love by a hair.
There is a chance for I think there's a chance for a lower scoring game with Washington and New York, with them being familiar with each other and kind of how some of those weird divisional matchups work. I think the Packers-Broncos game, I think Jordan Love coming off of a bye week, having an extra, that extra week to prepare. Everybody's a little bit healthier. I think they're getting Aaron Jones back. That remains to be seen, but I think that helps Jordan Love in a lot of different ways. I like Love a little bit more than Howell this week.
Okay. I like it. Alex, any other thoughts on that one? All right.
No,
Terrence,
I'll be honest. I didn't quite hear Kevin's answer.
Gotcha. He was saying Love as a better.
Having some internet issues.
I could tell. Like I asked that question and it was just kind of like stuck. But okay. So it sounds like Love is the answer on that one there. Let's go ahead and Terry, we're gonna get through your last question there, and we're gonna call it a night here. So we got 4 more questions here to Terrence. You had to sneak that one in. All right, Terrence, that Hal question's last one, and then we're gonna call it a night here. Terrence, Zach Reynolds, or Zach Evans, Craig Reynolds.
Reynolds, because I know what to expect from Detroit. I could easily see the Rams just saying, screw it. We're going to throw the ball 50 times this game because we have Higbee and Puka and Cooper Kupp, and we just have to think we're going to run the ball.
Concur. Wando Robinson or Pickens this week? I'm going to take Pickens. I get the Robinson call, but I'm taking Pickens.
Yeah. Pickens has a much safer floor. A little bit of a tougher matchup here, but I'm not nearly close enough to say that Wando Robinson's ready to be a wide receiver 2 like George Pickens can be.
Best stream defense, Pittsburgh's defense versus the Rams, the Packers versus Denver, Detroit versus Baltimore.
I think it's the Packers at Denver. would be first, and then Detroit at Baltimore would be second.
I would agree. Even though Denver's offense puts up decent numbers,
they're good for at least a turnover, though.
They are good for at least a turnover.
They give up the
yeah, I think I would go Packers, then Detroit, then Pittsburgh. I think the Rams are gonna try and get 400 yards passing this week.
Would not surprise me. Terrence asking Hal Carr or T Law this week. I'm gonna roll the Sam Howell train.
I am too.
Yeah.
If I can pivot away from a Thursday night game with all things being equal, I want to. And again, the Giants have been giving it up here a little bit, and I like that Sam Howell's been dropping back, 35 times a game plus, ready to sling it.
Yeah. Right. All righty. And the last one that we had come in on the TikTok was Garrett Wilson or Calvin Ridley. And
it has to be Ridley because Wilson's on a bye.
It sounds like it's a trade offer. Would you trade Ridley for Wilson?
Yes, I would rather have Garrett Wilson rest of the season.
Okay. I think I would concur, being that Ridley manager there. All righty. That's all the questions that we've got here. If you have any other questions, make sure you hit us up on the socials, Twitter, Instagram, or X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all those good places at Good Old Boys FF. One of the best places to support this independent podcast is the YouTube, youtube.com/@GoodOldBoysFF. Guys, what final thoughts do we have out there?
Enjoy week 7, right? It's a bit of a brutal one. But if you have any questions, as always, hit us up. We're happy to help, and good luck to you.
It's still mile high to me. I'm still calling it Twitter.
Fair enough. All right. Well, Facebook's meta now, so there's that.
Nah, it's still Facebook. It's Facebook, it's Twitter, it's Instagram, it's Mile High, it's Candlestick, it's it's Old Man Yells at Cloud.
All righty. Well, that's gonna do it for us. He's Kevin. He's Alex. I'm Derek. Have a good one. Be safe. Toodaloos.